We're happy that we're able to bring out the 2014 childhood immunization schedule. The calendar is already available, and you can pick up a copy from the commercial exhibit booth. They're giving away the copies of the 2014 immunization schedule. I'm not going to go through all the recommendations. I'm just going to bring up the changes that have arrived for the 2014. Now, this is the PIDSP Committee on Immunization, and these are the people working to bring out your immunization schedule. We have a process for the immunization recommendation, and it's really a tedious process of studying and coming up with recommendations. We start in June, where the committee meets for discussion of new vaccines. We look at old vaccines, see if there are new changes or recommendations. And the recommendations or changes will be based on the burden of disease, if it's available, efficacy and effectiveness data, and also review of literature. The committee members all go through this process for studying each vaccine that will be recommended. From July to September, we have monthly meetings and discussions. And in October, the proposed recommendations goes through a series of approval from several societies. The first one is the PIDSP board, where it's presented, and if approved, we present it to the PPS stakeholders. The PPS stakeholders makes comment, and then we bring it to the PPS board, where the final decision for approval is made and endorsed, and later on, towards the end of the month, it goes to the PFB board, and then this is printed. The recommendations are normally presented first during the PINI convention in November. And then the calendar is usually released by February in the PPS annual convention, PIDSP annual convention, and also during the PPS annual convention. Last year, we were a bit delayed in coming up with the recommendations, so the immunization schedule came out during the PPS annual convention. So these are the changes. If you look at your calendar, and I'm sure I see some holding the calendar already, you have not only to look at the calendar, but to read the annotations, because the recommendations on how to use the vaccine is in the annotations. And what are the changes? In the EPI vaccines, the pentavalent combination vaccine is already available. They're not giving separate doses of DPT anymore. It's being given as a combined DT whole cell pertussis, hepatitis B, and HIV vaccine. And also the TD is already part of your EPI vaccine. So this is the change that is new in the 2014 annotation. If you look at the childhood recommendation schedule, the changes you will see, where is it? Wala siya. Anyway, the encircled we show, it used to be DPT or DT whole cell pertussis or DT cellular cell pertussis. Now it's a combination vaccine, DPT, HIV, and hepatitis B. The other change occurs in the Tdap and TD. TD is already being given in the EPI program for adolescents. MMR is also a new recommendation. A booster dose for MMR is being given in the EPI program for adolescents. And where's the last one? Yes? Where's the pointer? Here? Okay. And then there are some changes in the recommendations for your pneumococcal vaccine and your influenza vaccine. So if you look at the annotations, and we encourage you to read this, you will see the changes in the DPT. There will be changes in the measles vaccine, in the MMR recommendation, in your Tdap, TD recommendations. your pneumococcal recommendations for recommended vaccines, and your pneumococcal recommendations for special age group. Let's start with the hepatitis B vaccine. Used to be given separately in the EPI program, where I'm not going to go through how it's being given because it's in your workbook. It's just that what we added is that in the EPI schedule, hepatitis B vaccine is given as a monovalent hepatitis vaccine dose at birth. So EPI, in the EPI, they give a monovalent hepatitis B vaccine at birth. Then subsequent doses are given at 6, 10, 14 weeks of age as combination vaccine containing the pentavalent vaccine of DPT, hepatitis B, and Hib. So for those of you who are working in government institutions or local health centers, they don't have a monovalent vaccine anymore. What they're giving is a combination vaccine. The change also, there's also a change in the DPT, diphtheria tetanus containing vaccine recommendations. We wrote down the following DPT combinations available in the Philippines, and you will see that there are a lot, because right now, we don't have monovalent DPT anymore. It comes with diphtheria tetanus combination, with other combinations with Hib, with hepatitis B, or with IPB. And in the red mark, the DTP, Hep B, and Hib, this is given in the Philippine EPI. The other combinations are being given in private sector. Again, we have not changed the recommendations given IM, minimum age 6 weeks with a 4-week interval between doses. And the pertussis component may either be a cellular or whole cell. Polio vaccine, we have 2, the oral polio and the IPB. The IPB vaccine is always in combination with the diphtheria tetanus containing vaccines. Now, the oral polio is still available, but this is only given in the EPI program together with your pentavalent vaccine at 6, 10, 14 weeks of age. So it's very hard to get oral polio right now. Your combination vaccines all contain IPB. It's only in government institutions that you have oral polio. Now, these are the changes for your TD and Tdap. I'm just going to tell you that in June last year, the Department of Health came out with an administrative order including TD in the EPI program. So in the EPI program, a single dose of TD is given to high school students, meaning grades 7 to 10, enrolled in public schools in selected cities and provinces. And Dr. Lianto will discuss this. So they're already giving TD doses, but this is only in public high schools and not nationwide, but only in selected cities and provinces. What we added in the Tdap combination is its use in pregnant teenagers. And what we wrote is that in fully immunized pregnant adolescents, meaning they've had a primary series plus the boosters, you have to administer 1 dose of Tdap during the late 2nd trimester or 3rd trimester of pregnancy for pregnant teenagers. Now we know that not all teenagers are fully immunized. Many of them are not immunized. So in the unimmunized pregnant teenager, you still need to follow a 3-dose series containing TD and Tdap following a 0-1-6-month schedule. You give Tdap preferably as the last dose during the 2nd or late 3rd trimester of pregnancy. So these are the new changes in the Tdap and TD recommendations. Now for the influenza vaccine, we went back to the previous recommendation because last year, because of the increase in pandemic flu, they changed this recommendation. It used to be that if you receive only one dose of influenza since 2010, for children 6 months to 8 years, you need to still give 2 doses, even if they have not received 2 doses of influenza since 2010. Now, right now, we're going back to the previous recommendation. In children 6 months to 8 years receiving influenza for the first time, you have to give 2 doses separated by 4 weeks. If 1 dose was given the previous influenza season, the following year, you need to give 2 doses of the vaccine, and then 1 dose yearly thereafter. For children 9 to 18 years, you need to give annual doses only. And preferably, this vaccine should be given starting February to June. But this can be given throughout the year. So once the seasonal influenza vaccine becomes available, it's better to give it early, because what we're seeing is that influenza is given once school year start, which is June in most schools, which is too late. Ideally, it should be given before school closes, which is around March or April. Now, there are some changes with the pneumococcal vaccine. Now, pneumococcal vaccine is placed both in recommended vaccine and also in vaccine for special groups. Now, for the pneumococcal vaccine, the primary vaccination consists of a 3-dose series with a minimum of interval of 4 weeks between doses, plus a booster dose given 6 months after the 3rd dose. Now, for healthy children 2 to 5 years of age with no previous PCV vaccination, 1 dose of PCV13 or 2 doses of PCV10 at least 8 weeks apart can be given. Routine doses of PCV is not recommended for healthy children beyond 5 years of age. Now, for high-risk children beyond 2 years of age, the pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine is recommended after completing the PCV series, and we will discuss this in the vaccines for special groups. For healthy children, once you finish your PCV series, you don't need additional polysaccharide, pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine or PPB. Your PCV series is sufficient. Now, this is what we discuss a lot regarding your pneumococcal vaccines for special groups. In children more than 2 years with the following underlying medical conditions, meaning you have anatomic or functional asplenia, HIV infection, other immunocompromising conditions, chronic lung, heart, renal diseases, cochlear implant, or CSF leak. If the child is between 24 and 71 weeks old and has received at least 3 doses of your PCV, any PCV, either PCV13 or PCV10, you still need to give 1 dose of PCV13. If less than 3 doses of any PCV vaccine is given, you need 2 doses of PCV13 given at least 8 weeks apart. So any PCV, either PCV13 or PCV10. Now, for children aged 6 to 18 years with no previous doses of PCV, you have to give a single dose of PCV13. Remember, this is for children with underlying medical condition. So no doses, 6 to 18, 1 dose of PCV13. After you finish the PCV series in these children with medical conditions, they should receive 1 dose of your pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine at least 8 weeks after the last PCV vaccine. That's how you give it. A second dose of your pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine is recommended 5 years after the first pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine, only in those with the following medical condition. Again, we have enumerated it. And only 2 doses of pneumococcal polysaccharide vaccine is recommended. You don't have to give it every 5 years. So 1 dose 8 weeks after your last PCV, and 1 dose 5 years after your previous pneumococcal vaccine. Now, let me go a little bit on the measles data, because we have a measles outbreak right now, and people are always asking us what they can give. If you look at this table, you will see that these are confirmed cases of measles. In 2011, we had about 6,555 cases of measles with 28 deaths. In 2013, up to December, we had about 1,724 with 21 deaths. Where is it? So because of the high incidence or the outbreak of measles in 2010, the DOH did a measles immunization program in 2011. So in 2011, they started measles-containing vaccine, either 1 or 2 doses. And in 2012, you will see that the measles cases went down from 6,555 to 206. However, in 2013, we have another measles outbreak. So last year, as early as March 2013, the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine already confirmed cases. There were increasing cases seen last March, with the highest laboratory cases seen in November and December, and with the most cases reported in NCR, Region 4A, and Region 6. These are seen mostly in children under 2. So in January 4 this year, DOH declared a measles outbreak in 21 barangays and 9 cities. So I'm trying to show you the joint position paper of PPS-PIDSP, which came out January 9, 2014. And what is important is this. You have to administer measles vaccine to children, adolescents, and adults with incomplete or no measles vaccination. You can use either a measles vaccine or MMR. And in outbreak situations, measles can be given as early as 6 months of age. Of course, you can give post-exposure measles vaccine 72 hours after exposure, because it may provide or modify some protection, or modify the clinical course. And of course, we encourage everybody to support the massive immunization program, which DOH started this February 3. They already started immunizing children, and they're encouraging not only government facilities, but also the private sector to help increase the coverage. So basically, it's the same, but now maybe the second line is very pertinent, as we can give measles as early as 6 months in cases of outbreaks as declared by public health officials, which was done early last month. Now, the other thing that is new in the immunization schedule is the MMR. Together with TD, a second dose of MMR is already given to high school students, grades 7 to 10, enrolled in public schools in selected cities and provinces. So you have 2 vaccines in the EPI that were introduced last year. It's TD and MMR for teenagers. Now, this is just a summary table of immunizations of teens and preteens. I'm not going to discuss this because Dr. Alianto will discuss this. Thank you. So I just showed you the changes that you will read in the immunization calendar and the annotations. Thank you.